Hello, hello.
Hear me?
What's up?
Testing.
What's
Can
up?
you hear me?
I can hear you, dude. What's up? How you doing?
Awesome, awesome. Good, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm ready to do this coach lesson, dude.
Awesome, let's do it.
All right.
Uh,
So
so how do I find you on StarCraft?
okay. I'll go ahead and give you my details really fast. 578. So just go ahead and add me on. I'm on North America. Go ahead and add that ID,
Awesome.
and then let me know your ID as well on North America because I have a lot of pending invites.
I am Pulse 1101
Uh,
or 529 or something
uh,
like that.
okay. I'm looking. I wish I didn't have so many pinning invites. Here,
Do you want me to join a channel or something?
sure,
Might be easier.
yeah, sure. Just join. Just like type in the chat /join space vibe, and then okay, it automatically makes me go to Vibes Raiders. Okay,
Alright, Vibe, is that the name of the channel?
Yeah. Just like my ID, and then I'm typing in there right now, and just see if you can see my chat. And if not, what you can do as well is you can just give me your ID as well in the off the friends list, and I can also add you.
Yeah, okay. 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, I am on your channel now.
Okay, do you see me typing?
I think so. Okay.
I'm just typing A.
Vibe. Okay. No, I don't see your title. Weird.
Okay, just give me your ID.
Okay, awesome.
No.
Found you.
Okay, cool.
Found
Perfect. Fucking perfect. Nice. Good job, dude. All right, step 1 completed. All right.
you. Awesome.
So just go ahead and host the replay with watch with others, and then we'll jump into this thing.
Okay, awesome. Can you give me back the leadership I
Oh,
gave
sorry.
to you?
Yeah.
But
So just make
awesome.
me the lobby host in the replay before we start, and then we'll be good.
Awesome.
So how you doing, man? How's it going?
It's been good.
Tech Chest. Thank you for the
I've been
3 month
loving the
2 or 3.
Bronze GM series. Been learning a lot. And one thing that improved a lot of my play was to just chrono my probes all the time and take expansions. But I still feel a bit stuck. Here is a replay against Terran. He went full mag, he harassed me, and in the end, he just had too much stuff for me to deal with.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's how it goes. When if you're ever not just like crushing the economy of your opponent, you totally can be like, I think we're doing okay, and then suddenly you get across the map and you see your opponent's army, and you're like, never mind, it's actually not okay. It's actually way worse than I thought.
Yeah, and I even brought in Void Race to deal with his battle cruisers, but in the end, they didn't do much.
Yeah. All right. So what we're gonna look at now is we're gonna look at your mainly your efficiency, like your macro, like we're talking about, and we'll try to fix anything there that could be a problem. And then secondly, we'll definitely also talk about like your maybe unit comp, your choices of where you send your units at to, and the ways you attack. But the main one is definitely gonna be macro, so we'll focus on that by far the most, and yeah, we'll see where you're at. And first things first, if you know you're playing a Terran, I would highly recommend putting your first pylon on the Reaper entrance. If you're a Protoss fighting, as the Protoss's perspective, that way you can eliminate a lot of the annoyance of a potential Reaper. I don't know how often you get Reaper harassed, but
Yeah, usually my plan is to make a Reaper wall behind the middle line
you like to
and
do it behind the mineral
pop
line.
out. Sorry?
You like to do it behind the mineral line?
Yeah, because then I pop out Stalker as soon as possible, and I haven't been taking too much damage. Usually, though, when I'm scouting, it's usually the time when I should be dropping the Cybercore, and it's usually a bit late, and so a couple of probes die because of that. But I'm trying to work on that.
So the one thing I'll say is I think building a wall on your on the like the Reaper entrance to your base, like the cliff, or building it behind your mineral line, like you said you do, both of those can kill a Reaper, and they can both get rid of the Reaper. But I think building your wall on the Reaper entrance to your base is a little bit better, and the only reason why I say that is because you can actually eliminate some of the like scouting potential of the Terran. As well. So, because if you build it behind the mineral line, he can always jump in for free and be like, scout, 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 and then he can like get out if he wants to, like throw a grenade at your stalker and get away. It only works if he like dives your probes, like, because it's not bad. It definitely kills him if he tries to kill shit, but yeah, he still gets to scout your base, which is kind of scary as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And then scouting wise for you, I definitely would recommend scouting like you are right into perfect. I was gonna say right after the bear or the gateway. That's the perfect time to go. This way you're gonna find out if you're gonna get proxied or anything like that. Chrono boost timing is good. You can damn. Okay, your second chrono boost timing is good. So far, so good. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, hold on. All right, so I'm gonna see how long this goes for, but you did stop making workers right now, or it's right here when you send a probe out. So you saturate the gas for full, and then your next to stop building probes at 128, and you're gonna go take a natural, which is totally understandable. And that was about like, yeah, okay, that was like 9 seconds or so of no probe production. Just make sure, even if your double gases are fully saturated and you're 16 at a 16 on the mineral line, if your plan is to take the natural, just keep making probes the whole time. Like probes always, even if it means, shit, I gotta like wait here for maybe another 3 seconds at my natural before my natural starts. So I gotta wait 3 seconds before I can make my core. Just keep making the probes nonstop. It's so important.
So it's better to build probes and have whatever I'm trying to build be a little delayed than to cut probes.
Yeah, like do not ever delay the probes.
Okay.
All right, and you just scouted. And obviously you've played this game. I haven't seen this game, but now that you've scouted 2 barracks in his base and he's walled himself into, what? Just looking at that alone, what do you think that means? Just like what perspectives could that be?
Thinking about that, I'm usually thinking that it might be some early aggression, like 2 barracks. Usually, what I see when I scout are the 2 supply depots and 1 barracks popping out a Reaper, and here he's popping out a Marine, which I found a bit odd. But yeah, I thought it would be some kind of early aggression, and I think it went that way. But I added some shield batteries, and things worked out in the end.
Yeah. So I would say the great way to read this would be like the mindset you could go into to just like quickly analyze would be if you scouted this and it was proxied like outside your natural at like near your 3rd base, I'd be like, this is 100%. If it's 2 racks, it's 100% going to be aggression. It could either be Marines or Reapers because you don't know how much gas he has right now. But as soon as he makes his first unit, it'll kind of tell you what it is. And also, if he makes a bunker, it's more likely going to be Marines than Reapers too. But it's definitely going to be aggressive. Seeing the Terran's base like this up on his side of the map, you would think it's probably going to be aggressive anyways, because opening 2 racks this fast usually means aggression. But if it's a Terran's defensive positioned barracks, like it's like to wall you out of his base rather than to be proxied at yours, it's most likely gonna be Reaper, I would say. Like it looks like he probably wants to go like maybe 3 racks Reaper, and you might just not see a 3rd racks or something like that. But if you do not get, like, that's what you should think, right? But if you do not get attacked by a Reaper, by the time your first stalker comes out and you're like, okay, well, he still hasn't attacked me with a Reaper yet, then I would immediately be thinking, okay, well, maybe he's actually just going to make like either, like, it might just be like that bio timing where he goes like Marine Marauder push and he's going to eventually just take add-ons on his barracks. Or maybe he's going to just like wall himself in with a couple racks for some Marine production and go into like a fast factory. Like you should just immediately be thinking Reaper and preparing for Reaper by getting a stalker out immediately, and maybe even, you know, the second you see a Reaper, if he did make one, you immediately make a battery. But if he doesn't make a Reaper and attack you right away, by the time your stalker comes out, then you're like, okay, well, we need to just figure out what he's doing again, and that would be the time when you'd be like, all right, maybe we'll sentry scout him and figure out what that is.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I think in this game he went for some Marine Marauder aggression.
Sure, exactly, right?
Though I think I might be messing up the game, but I think that was it.
All right. So I will say one more thing really quick. Just moving on from the scouting, talking about your build again, I would say the last thing that's important here is always start your cybercore before your second pylon. But if you want to have a build that like runs smoothly and doesn't really supply block you, plus it allows you to keep making probes, the build should be pylon, gate, gas, nexus, core, pylon, gas. So you still make the second pylon before the second gas.
I've been doing that because usually against Terran, when I'm trying to build my stalker to prepare for a Reaper, I'm usually supply blocked. So I've been trying to move up the pylon so that doesn't happen.
Another way you can fix this is you can also, like, I will say this, double chrono boosting your Nexus is usually more suited for fast double gas. So if you're trying to expand and you're trying to alleviate your build like a little bit to not supply block you, but also allow you to hit the timings correctly, maybe only do a single supply or a single chrono boost on your Nexus once your pylon's done the first time, the first pylon basically.
Okay.
And the reason why that's important is because it allows you to fully saturate your mineral line as fast as possible. But then you're not going to be able to saturate your second gas as fast, but it's okay because you're delaying the second gas anyways. So what that would do is you put down your second chrono boost on your Nexus when your second pylon finishes and your cybercore finishes, and then you also put in a chrono boost into your gateway for one stalker.
Okay.
So when the core finishes, you'd have about 100 energy on the Nexus rather than only 50. Or, you know,
I hadn't thought about that, like chronoing the probes after the second pylon, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Because it really, like, you're going to be fully saturated on the mineral line either way without the second chrono. It's just about getting that second gas with fast saturation. But if you're going for a really quick Nexus like this, which I love that you're doing, by the way, you can delay the second chrono and get the core first and then chrono your probes and stalker simultaneously.
Okay, cool. Do you suggest doing that on all matchups or just Terran?
Any matchup that you're gonna go one gate expand with, it wouldn't be a bad idea. So
okay.
Against Protoss, no, I would not recommend it because you should be going double gate expands against Protoss. Really, one gate expands against Protoss are fucking scary.
Yeah, I usually go. I build one gate. I check if what does he have on his base.
Yeah.
If he has two gates, I drop another gate. If he doesn't, then I expand.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, that's good. And then against Zerg, I feel like against Zerg, you could do this build too. It's fine. Going one gate expand against Zerg is totally normal. It's the only difference is that the gateway is placed in front of your natural, so it's like a wall there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're good. All right. So we'll move on. We'll keep it going. So order of units as well that kind of come out I would love to see would be Stalker first, followed by Sentry. If you're gonna go for like an expansion, you really need that Sentry. So I mean, do you normally build a Sentry?
I think in this game I did build against Terran. I've been finding that the Guardian Shield is so good.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm usually going Sentry.
Oh, you made a Stalker. That's okay. So the main thing, okay, that I would say is it's like I like actually At the very least, if you're not making a sentry, I like that you're at least holding the Zonlaga tower with the probe, because right now you are so vulnerable to getting all in and not realizing that you're about to die. Like if you wanted to play that way, because there's nothing forcing this guy to expand right now. So like he could do it. He could pull SCVs and just do a full fucking timing to you if he wanted to. But if you did make a sentry second, like you said, if like later on, Guardian Shield is very useful when he actually shows up with a bunch of bio, if he's going bio. But getting that sentry early, if he does not attack you, being able to hallucinate a Phoenix out and just seeing things alone that are like, is he making a command center or is he not making a command center, are fucking huge, because it gives you so much like. It gives you so much information to say things like, oh, well, I'm actually only playing a one base Terran who has, let's just say he has like 4 production facilities and he still has not made a command center. And then you go, okay, well, how about instead of taking a third base now, I go from 1 gate, 1 robo to like 4 gates in a robo. And I just start making units, or 5 gates in a robo. And maybe make some batteries even. Or, you know, you just play, like you can still eventually expand, but you prioritize your army a little bit more at that point, so that when because he hasn't attacked you yet and he's still 1 base, or situations like that, where it like just makes you more ready for the potential timing that's going to be coming.
Yeah, makes sense. Like, check out what he's doing, and if he's hasn't expanded, then focus on building, staying safe, and then after that expand if it is safe.
Yeah, it's pretty much required. Like if you go for an expansion early like this, it's honestly pretty much required to make it a sentry, to have information. But a sentry second always, not first, because if he shows up with a Reaper and you have a sentry, you're gonna get fucked.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, so here I see he's going for some sort of aggression.
Yep. I like the chrono on the gate.
Here's the sentry.
Yeah, it's like I would have. Okay, so hold on, hold the phone. I like the sentry. I like the chrono boost. The only thing I could change is I would say I would like the sentry to be second, then another stalker to be third. That's not the biggest of deals. I'm glad you're still making it, but I will say I don't like your shield battery placement.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay.
I think this shield battery placement did not help me. The idea would be to drop the second pylon. I think I should be dropping that on the expansion. And then, if needed, I could easily plop down a couple shield batteries at the natural.
Honestly,
and stay safer.
You don't necessarily need to, and I'm going to give you some interesting ways to think about this, okay? So I don't mind that your third pylon is at your natural. I actually kind of like it, because it allows you to, you know, your probes are, because when you think about it like this, when you build your second pylon, your natural's not going to be done yet. So your probe is going to have to lose a lot of mining time to run down to the natural, build it, run back. And then if you want to build tech that is not also next to your first pylon, for whatever reason, let's say you want to build it at your second pylon, it's going to furthermore have to run away, build down there, come back, and then also exposes your tech a little bit. So most likely what you're going to do is you're going to build your tech along your first pylon, but you don't always want to put your tech in exposed spots either. Like my point I'm trying to make here is, like, I could go all day with saying random facts or shit basically, but I like the second pylon placement. It's good, and the third pylon placement is totally fine. But if you think about it like this, okay, this is the point I'm trying to get across here. This is the big one. When you saw him pushing you, you saw 1 Marauder and you saw 4 Marines. This is also, you have a gate that's done, and you've been making units out of it, and you've only been able to squeeze out 2 stalkers. This is not going to be a stim pack timing. This is not going to be a flood. This is going to be aggressive. So I would totally recommend building batteries at your natural, like 1 or 2 batteries at the natural when the pylon's done. But you could actually walk forward towards like the base of the ramp, maybe like, you know, in front of your natural right now, like in that middle open snow area. And you could just start like picking it as units and kiting backwards, like shooting, backing up, and you could probably pick off like 2 Marines by the time you get back to actually at your nexus in your natural, because his army is so tiny that this shouldn't make you feel too intimidated.
I see.
Like you're like again, I still like the battery idea. It's okay if it gets delayed a little bit longer to be at your actual natural. But this is so fucking all in. Or no, I'm sorry. It's this is just so early that it's not that intimidating. And if it was all in, there's nothing he can do to punish you. Where it's like, oh well, yeah, he's let's just say he pulls every SCV with this, okay? And he's got like 6 supply and bio, and he pulls all the boys. You could actually just run up your ramp right now with your like if you saw SCVs coming in, you could be like, all right, probes, run back into the main. Stalkers, run into the main. You could then even like cancel the batteries at your natural and just let him like run his SCVs into your main as well. And the second he does that, you could just like force field the ramp with that sentry instead of scouting him, because he now has shown you his build. And you could be like, oh well, I just force fielded his bio out, I force fielded his SCVs into my base, and now I'll just kill all his SCVs for free. And then after that, and then my force field will expire and I'll fight his bio by itself. And then I could even pull my probes too if I needed to.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so basically, the shoot batteries were an overreaction at this point.
Yeah, 100%. It's so early. You got because I know a lot of people when they look at the game, they look at it and go, "Oh my god, dude! Like I'm getting attacked. Fuck. Okay, defend." But at the same time, if you pay attention to the timing and you go, all I've been able to make so far is 2 units. Like this guy has not had a lot, like because a barracks and a gateway have the same build time. And he had these buildings to have a point where he has like 30 army supply or something like that, or 20 army supply. Like his army supply is so fucking tiny right now, just like yours is. So being super afraid of what he has is also, it's not really, there's no reason to be that afraid. And there's also there hasn't been enough time yet for him to have any upgrades on those barracks. Like you can see, okay, well, that's not entirely true. He does have concussive shells. Okay, he has a concussive shell, but my point is that like it's not super intimidating. Worst case scenario, you have to pull a little bit of your probes to help you out, and you'll be fine. But again, third pylon nexus at your natural, batteries then is totally fine. You're totally fine, and if he attacks you before that, you can defend it easily with just a couple gateway units.
Yeah, awesome. I hadn't thought about that, about making that micro movement with the stalkers trying to pick off a marine or two. I think I'll definitely keep that in mind for the future.
Yeah. The last thing I would say that would make me only, this is the final like piece here that I would say that would maybe make a bit more sense. It would be if your first probe scouted his base and you were like, all right, well, he's got a standard build. I'm going to do a standard build. And that means my pylon is going to be put at a normal time at my third base. My third pylon is going to be put at a normal time at my natural. Then that's fine, because he looks like he's standard. But if let's just say you scouted like, oh god, we're being proxied right now, and the Terran player has nothing at his main, and he has a Reaper in my base when my core is like only 30% of the way done, because it means he proxied it, or something like that. Then I would be totally all about like, okay, maybe take a faster pylon. Like maybe then you could be like, all right, maybe I could actually just build a pylon quickly at my third, god, I keep saying the third pylon at the natural, so you could maybe make a quicker battery because you're expecting it all in more likely, or more heavy aggression. Does that make sense? Like if he looks like he's going to do something more aggressive, maybe you make that pylon a little earlier to have potential batteries a little faster at your natural.
Okay. Okay, awesome.
Okay. And the position kind of sucked for you, but that was a great idea.
Yeah. The idea was to make that stalker go back, up, but it got stuck.
I like what you were doing. I liked it. That was an unfortunate fucking stalker being like, "Move out of the way, fuck, I'm dead." Like, I get you, dude. It was annoying. Yeah, it happens.
And he had concussive shells. That hurts as well.
Yeah. So I would say as soon as you see that, okay, this is the proper reaction. Let's assume you didn't have these batteries in your main, and you started like a battery at your natural, okay? And let's say the battery at your natural was only like 7 seconds in the way of production instead of 14 because your pylon wasn't done yet. That'd be very realistic. Now, the perfect way to react to this would be kite the Marine like you tried at first, and then the second you realize, oh shit, he's got concussive shells, literally just green box your probes at your natural and A-move him with your probes. Because if he has concussive shells, this is now going to be a lot more annoying for your stalkers to deal with, and you're not necessarily going to lose all your probes either. You just want them to tank for a second so you can not get your stalkers picked off. If the Terran starts running away from you and kiting away from you, just make him run down the ramp and then pull your probes back to the mineral line. Because what that allows you to do is it allows your stalkers to shoot a couple times while he's running away, because the stalkers run faster than Marines do. And then as soon as he's down the ramp, that also allows you to have a free shot again on top of that, because now you can shoot him when he doesn't have vision of you. So you can start kiting again if he comes back up the ramp. But it allows you basically to thin his army out a lot doing this. If he doesn't, and if he does not run away, if he instead charges forward and tries to kill like either your probes or your stalkers, just fight it with your probes and stalkers, because you will actually kill the Marines so fucking fast. And once the Marines are dead, your probes are not going to die very fast at all. And then you can actually start dedicating chronos to probes, and you can recover very fast. So
Awesome.
that would be the perfect way to
Yeah,
respond.
in this position, I even had the lead workers, but I had no way of knowing that. Perhaps if I thought, like you said, oh, he has 3 Marines, 1 Marauder, perhaps he doesn't have that great of an economy
Yeah.
to back him up.
And that's also where the Sentry Second comes into play a lot, because imagine if instead of seeing his push with your probe at his Unlaga tower, imagine if you actually sent a Sentry out, or a Hallucinated Phoenix out, and you saw him like, as he just like passed the Unlaga tower, and he's running up that high ground ramp where that one Marauder is right now. Let's just say his army's right there, and your Hallucinated Phoenix is flying up that direction right now, and you fly over a couple Marines with no stim pack, nothing. Your Phoenix doesn't quite die, but it goes, oh shit, he's attacking me. And then your first chrono boost gets dedicated to unit production, because you're like, I'm about to be attacked, I need another unit right now, I feel unsafe. But then the second you actually get attacked, and he's like, you're like, wow, this army, like you see his army's not that big, but then in the second he reveals concussive shells, you lose a couple probes, which makes your stalkers stay alive, but your probes die a little bit. But then when you get to his base and you realize, okay, he doesn't have a fucking natural, and we do, and he just did like this really awkward one base timing. Suddenly you just realize, okay, well, I've killed his army, but he killed some probes. I just chrono boost some new probes to replace what died faster, and then now I retain a lead of workers, and we just also, he let me kill his army, which makes me feel way more safe, because he delayed his own command center to just kind of throw units away, and it didn't really pay off for him. So that's why I also say that Sentry Second is super important, because you could have totally had a Phoenix out before he attacked you.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna adopt that, making that Sentry Second.
And also, here's another point we didn't even talk about. If you go for a Sentry Second, it's gonna like kind of like take off a little bit of the pressure of your mineral lines, or of your minerals, basically, because it's a lot cheaper than a stalker, and you might actually be able to build that third pylon at your natural without hiccuping your probe production. And now suddenly you could be like, oh, I see him pushing with my Hallucinated Phoenix, and you could immediately make a battery, because you're not making the cost of another stalker like at that point in time. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. But yeah, right now, before you're like 100%, your probes not being pulled is a huge mistake right now, only because he has concussive shells. Only because he has concussive shells. If he didn't have concussive shells, I would say you don't need to pull your probes.
Yeah, even now I could. Yeah, they are all dying. I could have just sent them to tank some damage.
So if you would have pulled your probes when you had two stalkers alive, because you did have two, and because like only one marauder shooting a stalker at a time isn't going to stare it forever. The stalker will actually get away if it's constantly trying to run away. So when you killed that first Marine, that was perfect. And then you started trying to shoot, because the Marauder was in the back. Then you tried to start shooting the second Marine, and he shot you with the Marauder, which snared your Stalker. The second you saw that snare happen and you're like, ah, shit, concussive shells, just running away to your probes and having the probes go towards him would have been the perfect response. Neither one of your stalkers would have died. Your probes would engage him, and as they do, your stalkers re-engage, and you actually would be able to kill like second marine, third marine, and fourth marine before all your probes are dead, guaranteed. Like he would probably kill maybe like 3 of your 7 probes before his marines die. So then he would have like 4. You'd have like 4 probes left and 2 stalkers shooting at the marauder, and you don't necessarily guaranteed get to kill that thing depending on how far he's kited by this point, but you will do damage to it. And you could also, like I said, if you chase him all the way to the edge of your ramp, at the edge of your natural, you could then go back and be like, cool, now I pushed him away, we can go back to mining and we're good. But your stalkers would still be alive, and that would be huge right now if they were.
Yeah. Yeah, everything died.
Yeah. Script food, thank you for the sub, by the way. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Knives Shao, thank you for the prime. Sorry, guys, I'm doing coach list. Thank you, thank you. And then now, I would say, just at this point, like, it's not the worst, but it definitely doesn't feel great for you. Just because you're not able to make probes at all anymore. Like, you haven't made probes for a while because you're feeling very threatened. And, even, like, I'll say this. Even if you were being threatened right now, and you were like, shit, okay, there's a couple units, in my expansion that I don't want to deal with right now. It's kind of scary. It's still the proper response right now. You could re-rally your nexuses to your main like you did and just keep making probes. Because not making probes right now is making you fall so far behind. Or it's behind from what you could be at, not necessarily behind against what he is doing. Yeah, this is where the probe comes in handy too. Because these marauders, honestly, just pound ass. they just like pop your stalkers so fast and stuff. And if you saw those probes alive, like if the probes are getting shot, because like a stalker and a marauder both kill each other pretty fast. But yeah, it's very painful for you not making probes right now, and also losing some of your army too. Like you're taking trades with them. But it's all said and done. I like that you're making, like, you immediately start probes again, and your reaction is to chrono the probe. But the lack of probe production is definitely kind of fucking you over. For sure.
Yeah. And now I don't even have a sensor to see what's going on.
Yeah. So if that happens, just make another one, honestly. Like if you did make another one. You made 2 actually. I don't mind that you made 2. It's not that big of a deal. I personally only really like making 1, but it's fine. I do like your third base, by the way. And the reason why I like your third base is because you had a lot of money, first of all. I think you could have maximized it a bit more if you would have used it a little bit more efficiently. I actually do not like your gateways you're making right now that much. We'll talk about that in a second. But the reason why I like your third base is because he just threw his entire army away. So if you would have confirmed, all right, this dude is, like, let's just say you had a scout, okay? And you were like, the first time you scouted him, and you go, okay, he doesn't have a natural, and he's attacking me. And then, he attacks you, you lose some probes, you chrono some probes because he loses his army, and then he keeps attacking you, and your second scout goes across his base, and he loses the rest of his units that were parade pushing your base. And you go, okay, well, he lost everything again, and he's going for a natural. That would be a great response now for you to go, okay, let's take a third base and keep making my units like out of my current production. And that'd be fine. That'd be totally good. The only thing I don't like that you're doing right now is you're throwing down, like, I wouldn't mind if it was only like 1 more gate, but you're making 4 more gates right now because you had a lot of money, and you're doing this off of the fact that you just spent all your money on the Nexus and all the new gates, and now you have 2 gateways that are already active and the Robo that is still already active that don't have enough money to produce anything. So now all these gates are hiccuping your current production, and now you won't be able to utilize it anymore. So you have to wait.
I see.
Yeah. So like if you had like 450 extra minerals, or even like the 600 minerals freed up because you didn't make any of these gates, the trade-off would be you could make 2 stalkers and a immortal or something.
So in this case, how many gates should I make in this position, right? Because I think that if he hadn't committed to that aggression, if we were playing standard, I usually feel like adding a few more gates after the third. I usually feel that's a
Yep,
good thing.
I agree with you. But can I?
So in this case, I should uh, I should not build that many just because I'm sort of behind where I should have been
Yes.
economically.
Yep. And that's that.
Okay.
This is the exact reason why I don't like teaching people build orders in this this time around in like my Bronze GM series is because a lot of people don't understand things like this. And the reason why your gateways are inefficient right now is because your natural is not fully saturated. Normally,
Okay.
if it's a normal game where you go, well, normally I take my gate production after I make my third, but no, if like no aggression had happened, your natural would probably have like 18 probes on it right now. And then you're like, all right, well, we have enough money to take a third base, and I can now make more gates, and that you're doing all the extra production off of the fact that you're still making probes, and you already have like 40, and you're like by the time the gates are done, you'll have like 46 or like 48, and then you're like, well, I'm fucking rich, and it feels good.
Yeah.
But this time around, you didn't make probes for a while. Like it was honestly between both nexuses combined, I would say you probably missed about like 90 seconds of pro production, or like maybe even like 110 or something.
Looking, I have that WCS game hunt interface here, and I see the idle time here is 16 seconds.
16 seconds?
Yeah, I think it's probably more though.
16 seconds. There's no fucking way. Because I'm talking about like each time the Nexus is like if one Nexus is not building a probe for 1 second, that's just 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, and then when both Nexuses aren't building a probe, that's 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. Then probably it's counting only 1 second or something.
Because I definitely know it's been a while. Because when you had those probes dying on your natural, you were not making probes, and then you did not make probes until you actually killed the 2 Marines and like 3 Marauders in your natural, when a couple of your Stalkers and Sentry died. Like there was no probe production going on that entire time. And you know, so that, and then 10 probes also died. So all this combined just really like set your own pacing behind for yourself. So the extra production now definitely, what that really does is it seems like it's a good way to be like, all right, I'm spending my money. I'm gonna just catch my I'm gonna macro and I'm gonna spend the money I have. But a lot of the part or a big part of macro that a lot of people don't really fully respect, I would say, is generation. And all these gateways do is it fucks your generation up, because now the only way you're going to utilize these gateways properly is if you cut probe production constantly, and you're not going to want to do that because you're taking a third base. So it just makes a really big disorienting feeling of your build right now. Also, another thing against Terran that I highly recommend, especially when they're going bio, is the second the Robo's done, immediately make a Robo Bay. So you can make Disruptors or Colossus fast.
Okay. So here I see he's coming again. So I dropped 2 more shield batteries.
I don't mind it. That's fine. That's fine.
But then he attacks me from the other spot.
Yeah. I would say the thing that I'd be more scared of, because when you saw him pushing you, you saw he had siege tanks. The only thing I'd be scared of is if this Terran was really smart about how he played, and he just sieged up at the edge of your the edge of the range of tanks, could barely shoot like your Stalkers, and maybe like the edge of a battery, and then he always makes you run into him away from batteries. So you always have to like, every time you want to fight him, you have to run out of healing range of a battery to actually take a fight, which means your Stalkers are going to die really fast. But then if you run back to your base to get healed, he's just getting free tank shots on you, and you're like, God, this sucks both ways. And this kind of a situation, the only time I would ever say making batteries makes sense is if you actually had a counter siege option. Like, for instance, your plan was going for something like a Disruptor, or if your plan was to go for something like a Tempest. But if your plan is to go for just Stalkers for now, which is what you're doing, because you made so many gates, looks like that's what you're doing. And you'll probably make Zealots eventually, I imagine. But the timing that he's showing up with now, your only response is Stalker. I would say the better option would be just spend as much money as you can on like zealots and maybe an immortal, and just get like enough to overpower him right away, rather than planning on playing turtling defensive against it. Because your army composition is not going to benefit from playing defensive, because he's going to siege you.
I see. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that changes the dynamic here is that he has tanks. If he had only bio, shield batteries make sense. Because he has to run into you to shoot you. He can't out-siege you. See how, notice how when you're engaging him, you're running out of battery range. Even though you have batteries in your main, you're fighting outside of range of batteries, and his tanks are just fucking pounding your Stalkers. This is why I say more batteries doesn't make sense here.
I see. Yeah, I could have at least moved back a little.
Yeah, sure. That is very true as well, because there was no reason to take the fight there, because he wasn't actually killing anything. He was just standing in your base. But for him to actually attack like your gates and stuff, you could have, if your Stalkers fought him where they are now, you could still shoot him off your gates, and now suddenly you're not in range of getting shot by siege tanks. But still, you know what? That wasn't... You're still ahead in this game. Like, all these little things that have happened so far, you're still actually ahead. And the reason why is because look at your probes compared to his SCVs. You just really need to keep making probes. Like, well, actually, let's go back to the beginning of this fight. And I want to look at probe production, okay? I'm looking at the production tab. And we're going to see if you get really distracted by this. So no probes are being produced at like 719, 720. Let's say 720, because it's easy to round that off.
Yeah, about 30 seconds of no probe production.
Yeah. Still no probes. It's more than 30. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's about 40 seconds. So when you think about that too, if we're talking about 40 seconds of probes off of 3 Nexus now at this point, that's
6 seconds, six probes.
Yeah.
And
it's like six.
Actually,
it's like 6.5 probes. Yeah.
Yeah, almost 9 probes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get a half a probe on each Nexus, because you have that last little duration. But yeah, it's so many fucking workers that could have been made during that, and that could have put you. You could have been fully saturated on the natural if you made workers during this, and then you could be saturating your third as well, like, you know, after, like, all the excess could be now going to the third. Like, basically, honestly, I'll just say this: at 8 minutes. We're talking 8 minutes here. If you would have been making workers the whole time, your supply at 8 minutes, and even though he attacked you the ways he did as well, if we're talking, you got attacked by the first Marauders, I'm not even telling you you had to micro the way I said you had to micro. We'll say everything you've done up to this point, you microed exactly how you did, and you built your batteries and stuff, and it's fine. And that all happened. I'm not gonna try and say that in a perfect world you did everything right. But if you just made workers the whole time, like throughout this entire game, that's the only thing you did differently, was you just kept making workers and you never stopped. You could have had 3 fully saturated bases right now during that timing that just hit you, and you could have had the exact same sized army that you did, guaranteed, because you would have had way more money to work with. And then so you would have invested it into the probes earlier, which would have made you had not as many gateways as fast when you first made them. But you would have been able to have made them pretty quick anyways, and you would have been able to have utilized them a lot more after that. And your supply right now, if I had to guess a range you'd be at, I'd say you could probably be at like 90 to 100 supply right now, with the current game you've played, if you just made probes. If you played a game where he was not aggressive, and you played a standard game where it's like both players are kind of just chilling and you're macroing hard, you could probably be at 150 supply right now, or like 160 supply right now. So your supply could definitely be a lot higher. Again, it's just based off of making workers, because you can see the workers stopped again right now.
Yeah, even cut now.
Yeah, it's just because I don't think you're necessarily like cutting them. I think you're just kind of like getting distracted by all the shit going on, and then you're like, oh shit, I gotta do this. Oh yeah, make probes again. And
yeah, and I don't really want to. I don't really like to queue probes. I've been trying to make around the probes and then go back, do something, and after that, just make another round of probes instead of just queuing it.
Yeah.
I think in my case and in the league that I'm in, I should probably just queue them.
I can give you a tip right now that can help you fix this a lot. And this is something I talked about in Protoss Bronze GM stuff earlier on, just for like good habits to develop. And it would be literally just get in the habit. For you, it's 4 and 5. Get in the habit of going 4, 5, 4, 5, 4. And you do this every time you're doing nothing. Because if you're looking around your base, it doesn't necessarily like you're moving the mouse around and like dragging the screen around or something. Or if you just you literally just built something, that's fine. You could like if you built a pylon, just be like 4, 5, 4, 5. Like you every time you have idle time, just tap 4, 5, 4, 5. And what you're gonna look at is your eyes should be in bottom middle where the production is, and all you want to look at for nexuses, like let's just say right now you click them all. Just click each nexus and hold shift and like make them all in the group. So you can see three nexus buildings, and you see those one little white dots on each one of them. The goal for
how many probes there are.
Yeah, the goal for the nexus is how always have 2 white dots. You don't have to actually look at when they build. You don't have to be like, I see you don't have to always look at the nexus itself and be like, this probe is coming out in 2 seconds. In 2 seconds, I need to make a probe. That's very fucking try hard. That is something that you like. I'll tell you right now, like pro gamers don't even do that. But pro gamers have such like a ingrained fucking worker production just thing inside of them because they've done it thousands of times that they just know, they just feel it in their hands. Like it's like muscle memory. I need to make a probe. I need to make a probe. I need to make a probe. Like they just know. It's like, and also they can be like, I could start an upgrade and I just know it's gonna finish at this time because I just know. I've done this thousands of times. I can do this fucking blind basically. But developing a habit, just always make 2 little white dots on each nexus, so you always have 2 probes. So if you have like 4, you're getting a little excessive there. 3, same thing. But if you have 1 and you see that, if you're like 4, 5, 4, 5, and when you hit 5, you go, okay, each nexus only has 1 little probe on each. Just go probe, and now they have 2. So you're still making probes, and you queue up 1 extra one on each nexus.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna try to do that because one thing that I'm always worried is like when I don't have anything being produced and I queue like 6 probes divided among like 3 nexi, so that's like 300 minerals.
Yeah.
But if I just make that cost like upfront in the early game, that doesn't happen because when I queue 3 probes, add like the second probe to the queue, then it would only be 150.
Yeah, exactly. And at this point too, like when you're doing it with like your first nexus, it's your first nexus is, most people can handle the first nexus. It's like nothing's going on at that point in the game. It's like I'm building my first pylon, I'm building my first gate. No one really worker blocks at that point in the game. Even like bronze players, I would say, can usually handle that. But as soon as 2 base happens, that's when you can start doing the little white check mark rule on each nexus, because that's when you're scouting as well. That's when you're getting maybe harassed by something as well. That's when you're either harassing him. That's when the multitasking starts happening a lot more, and your brain starts getting divided on its tasks. So now just developing a rhythm or a habit for yourself of going 2 probes for nexus, 2 probes for nexus, 2 probes for nexus, and you check it repeatedly. That's a great way to have a rotation of this. Simultaneously, the other part of this, when I say it's not just hitting 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, you're hitting 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. And what you're doing with 4 is you're also doing the exact same thing with 4. You're like if you select all your gates and you select your whatever it's called, your robo, you're looking to see, do I also have units being ready to be built, or like do I have a little check mark on my robo? Do I have gateways that are cooled down? Like, are they ready to go? And you could just literally constantly be like, can I make units? Workers. Can I make units? Workers. Can I make units? Workers. And you just check it the whole time. The only time you don't check this is when you're getting attacked or attacking or scouting. And when you're scouting, that only comes for a brief moment. You're like looking at his base for maybe all of 5 seconds. And when you're getting attacked, that is a moment when you need to defend an attack. And when you're attacking someone, that is a moment when you are, you're attacking someone and you have to micro for a second. But even then, like, I'm gonna get back to a point now where I'm gonna go back to the fight you just had for a second.
But I think even during fights,
you can do it then too.
a probe takes like 16 seconds to build, right?
12.
12 seconds. So even then, you have sort of this 12-second window where you don't really need to build a probe because the first one is already being built. But yeah, okay. But
It's like what the last thing I'm gonna say with micro is there are moments in micro where you're just staring at it and there's nothing you can do, and that is a time to go 4-5. So let me give an example, and now it's gonna be with this exact fight we're looking at right now. Now imagine this fight. Imagine if these tanks are not here and you engage this with a Guardian Shield and you're just good to go on the Marine Marauder. That would be the perfect time to go 4-5. But now we play it for a second and you get shot by a siege tank. And you're like, oh shit, like the reaction to this now would be, he's got tanks, let's micro this. It's like the proper reaction. So you select your army, you can hit one, whatever, move it back out of tank range, and then re-engage the fight. And while your army is moving away from tank range, you can't do anything there, so that would be the perfect time to go 4-5. And just maintain. Just do maintenance really fast. There is always going to be situations all the time in StarCraft where armies are, when you tell something to micro in a certain way, you have to let it then happen, and you have a moment to be like, okay, I need to build a probe. It's very rare when you actually have to control a unit where it's like, I don't even have a fucking millisecond to spare here because I'm busy microing this shit. Like, I have to micro nonstop. Like, one of the only examples I can think of that's like that, which it doesn't really matter anyways, is either let's say you're Terran and you're like 4 racks proxying someone and it's a Zerg player and you're just like stutter stepping Marines and you're like, I can't stop stutter stepping, I don't have a moment to spare here, and he's got Lings chasing me, I have to micro this until the Lings are dead. You know, but you're super all in there, and it's not gonna last forever either. Like, the fight's gonna end quickly one way or the other, and then you go back to producing after that. Another one might be like, let's just say you're 200 supply, your army's really diverse, and you're in-game death ball, and you're like, I'm microing fucking Charge the Archon Immortal and a Prism across the map, and I'm switching into Sky Toss, and I'm doing fucking Storm micro too. And you're like, I'm playing like super diverse right now. But at the same time then, the 4-5 technique doesn't really matter anymore then at that point anyways, because you're done making workers. Like, worker production's over.
Yeah, 80 probes or something.
Yeah, exactly. And like, now all you're making is units anyways, and you should have enough production to like make large rounds units then at that point too.
Make large what? Sorry.
Like when you're like at 200 supply, you're not going to be working with like 6 gateways. You're going to be working with probably like 16 gateways. So if you're like, oh, I just lost like 40 supply, suddenly you just remax because all your gateways get used once, and you're maxed again.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, in this situation, I tried to snipe the medevacs.
Yeah.
To try to cut his vision.
It was good that you went for the medevac, but the only thing that was bad was the priority was getting away from the tank.
Yeah.
But I like, if you would have just backed up and then sniped a medevac, that would have been perfect.
I think I should have counterattacked or at least realized what he's doing.
Honestly,
like, Can you give me just a second? I think there's a huge music.
Are you doing a coaching lesson from a carnival?
Yeah, it's almost that. Okay. Just a second.
Right now, Bo with a clown is over there just being like... And it was getting pretty loud. For sure.
Is it better right now?
Yeah, it's a bit better. Yeah, I'll say this. No offense, but your mic is not the best. But it's a bit better than it was a second ago.
Sorry.
It's all good, dude. Don't worry. All right. So going forward here, what I was gonna say the response to what you said, where you go, I should have counterattacked him right now. I would say the best way to read this would be, This dude's still 2 bases, and if you see his 3rd command right now, you're seeing that it just started. You still should feel like you have a lead right now. So if you just like really get your macro under control, like your probes saturated properly, your bases saturated properly, and you utilize those bases as fast as you can, you will still ramp up faster than he will, and you will. So that means that the next time you guys take a fight, you should crush his ass, and then from there you could be like, well, I won't ever let you expand from this point on, and now I win. Stuff like that. Like you will beat his army either way if you just play more efficiently than he does. And playing efficiently is literally just getting your bases saturated and then using the money once that happens. But saturation.
Yeah, I saw he had a liberator. Yeah. So I instantly dropped a shield battery on the natural, built a probe, built a couple stalkers on the 3rd. So if he wanted to harass me there, I could easily answer that.
I'll say a battery in your 3rd isn't necessarily needed right now. Only because if your stalkers are there, ideally what you want to do is you want to have enough stalkers to just instantly kill that fucking liberator. Like, we're talking like you blink on it, it dies, you're good to go. But if he shows up and your probes are there, it's gonna one-shot your probes anyways. It won't actually. The battery does nothing there for probes.
Okay.
So this is one of those things where it's not necessary, and it's just a little bit of a waste of your money right now. I don't mind.
Should have been a salad.
Yeah, like I don't mind if you make batteries later, but I think you're making a lot of batteries when you don't necessarily need it, and it's just slowing down your control of the game. And it's not just the batteries. Batteries is just an addition to things like also you're not making probes as much as you should be. Just like right now, if you look at production, you're still not fully saturated and you're not making probes still. And then he shows up with his tanks. Perfect response to this, because you have no zealots, would have been to blink on those tanks and then kill as many as you can before they get set up in siege mode. Because if you blink on him as well, you're going to reduce the amount of siege shots he'll do to you as well, because you'll be in range of like in that dead zone. And his tanks are super exposed because the bio's away from it. But if you don't have zealots, and I know you're warping in a couple right now, but pure stalker against tank is fucking scary for stalker. Like, your stalkers will just get destroyed, which is what happens.
Yeah.
So like, imagine right now if, like, right here is right now, like if you blink these stalkers right now, this exact second, you can, with the amount of stalkers you have, you're doing 18 damage times 10. That's enough damage. Like, it's actually not enough damage to kill a tank, because it's actually only going to do 165 damage to that tank. Or, sorry, 170 damage to that tank. Because it does 180 damage, but the tank has 1 armor, so you have to reduce 10 damage because you have 10 stalkers, so it only does 170 for real. So each volley of your stalkers is going to almost kill a tank. But you'll be able to kill a tank in 2 shots, which means you'll probably be able to kill the first tank before he shoots at all. Or you know, it's 2 of his tanks would shoot you once. The other 2 tanks wouldn't shoot at all, because if they're sieging, they wouldn't get a shot off at all. But then when the Immortals show up, you're going to start one-shotting his tanks if you're focus firing with everything, even if a couple stalkers die, because Immortals do fucking insane damage to armored units. But
yeah,
my point is you could have... we don't have to go through the math on this. The biggest point is you could have definitely picked his tanks off before a lot of your stalkers died, if you blinked on him right this second. But instead, you walking at him, and then you let your stalkers kind of concave out around it, which allows you to get shot so many more times. And then you focus the Liberator too, which is not what you wanted. The Liberator is not going to do nearly as much damage as these tanks are if your stalkers are stacked. Yeah, so getting rid of the tanks is huge. It's massively important. And then right now too, this is really the perfect time too to be like producing probes still, because you're not fully saturated, and then checking on your gateways and stuff. But it's just you're losing these fights just because you don't have enough, basically. Yo, Jason, thank you for the raid. Welcome everybody. I'm doing a coaching lesson. Welcome guys. Fucking love you. There we go. Yeah, get on those fucking tanks. Now get now. Okay, so now you got those tanks. But now you want to get the hell out of there because these bio units, you don't have enough stalkers here. You're gonna get destroyed if you stay here. So I like that you're running. Oh, goddamn! Okay. Relax, bro. Jesus. Did you just turn into a JSL player? Wow, look at that micro. That stalker has 2 hit points. No, but damn, dude. But yeah, like it seems confusing because like a lot of these problems you're dealing with right now, where you're like, fuck, dude, like I got, how do I micro this? How do I do this? How do I do that? All these problems would go away if you just made probes properly, and you'll have just so much more than he does.
Oh man, the problems are so simple in Platinum. Like just make probes, just put pylons.
Yeah, it's
They're
because
golden.
everyone gets distracted. Everyone's like, I'm attacking. You're attacking me. Okay, I'm defending. Like on either side, both players are like, I'm gonna focus on this and see what happens. And then suddenly, what happens is, if you were to watch 2 Platinum players play versus 2 GM players play, they could play the exact same styles. But then you're like, okay, what minute are we at? We're at 9 minutes, and the Platinum players are at like 62 supply, and the GM players are like at 180 supply. So if you, and the only difference is the worker production, literally, like the efficiency of the build, because like neither player is like really attacking each other like all the time. It's not like we're seeing like all these micro moves where it's like, wow, this guy's killed so many units so efficiently. Like both players could just do maybe 1 attack, they slam into each other, the fight ends in 5 seconds, and then both players disperse and go back to building their build again. But if you just macro properly, you have so much more shit to work with. And if you're in Platinum and you're macroing properly and your opponent is not, he shows up to your base and you're like, has this guy been AFK? Because why is his army so fucking small right now? I don't get it. And it's because he's not playing efficient. That's all it is.
Yeah. I had a couple of games where I did think that like the Bronze GM series has been so good because I've been focusing a lot more on drops, but not enough as I should.
Yeah.
But even the little that I am, it's already giving me a lead.
Yeah.
Like even now, he attacked me. He lost almost everything. We lost everything, and we are almost equal workers.
Yeah, exactly.
But he is staring. So he has mules, right? So mules, yes, kill that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, well, the only thing you have going for you though is he made a planetary, so he doesn't quite have as many mules as he should. But yeah, no, like your pro production almost 13 minutes, and we've only lost 26 at this point. You could have definitely made more than, what is that, 57? Or yeah, no, 67, sorry. You could have definitely made more than 67 probes at this point. Like your probe saturation right now easily could be 4 base fully saturated with like a 5th base that has some saturation on it because your base has started mining out. At your natural is going to start mining out like really soon, and your main's already mined out a little bit. And you could have like 80, 85 probes between 5 bases for sure right now. If you were making workers the whole time. All right. And then those tanks are kind of fucking you up again. I would say once again, this is another situation where, just to throw this out there, if you ever engage tanks, and you have to ask yourself one of 2 questions: can I blink on those tanks, and can I not lose everything? If the answer is yes, you blink on those tanks and you focus fire them, and then you can run around and do whatever else you need to do against the rest of his army. But if the answer is, if I blink on those tanks, am I going to lose my whole army? And if now instead of saying no, I won't lose my army, if the answer is yes, I will lose my stalkers if I blink on those tanks, the correct response to tanks is just back the fuck up. Do not take the fight where they are. And you need something that's going to make the answer now, no, I won't lose my whole army. And that answer, what that answer usually is if he's not exposing his tanks to where you can actually blink on them and pick them off, you need charge lots.
Yeah.
Because then
to break the tank line.
Exactly, because what charge lots will do is they'll shove his bio back into the tanks. The tanks will shoot the charge lots. The charge lots will charge into the bio, and if this dude's not microing very well, the tanks will now also splash the bio just like they're killing some of the zealots, because the zealots will be all in the bio's face, and that'll buy your stalkers positioning and time to pick the tanks off without just getting pounded by tanks themselves. Because a tank does almost double the damage to a stalker that it does to a zealot. Like, it's fucking insane.
Like the thing does like 85, right?
It does 70 and it gets 5 per upgrade, so it does 85 at level 3 weapons.
Fuck. Yeah.
So 2 shots a stalker essentially with level 3 weapons. But against a zealot, it only does 40. And a zealot also has more overall stats than a stalker does. Well, not necessarily. It really the big one for a zealot is it has more HP than a stalker does, so it has more armor because you don't get shield armor. Like, you have every unit for Protoss has 0 shield armor, but you have 1 passive armor on actual health. So not only do zealots take less damage from tanks because they're not the right armor type for tanks to just destroy, they're light instead of armored, but they get more actual benefit from their genuine, like their real armor on the unit itself. So they just absorb more, and they get in the bio, they shove the bio back, and they allow your stalkers to just like do shit. And here's the last piece of this, okay? The last piece of this that makes this go, oh shit, maybe I didn't think about this, and maybe that makes a lot of sense. So that's actually really impactful, and it's good. What it does too, if you make zealots first as a front line to shove into this, if it makes your stalkers not die, it means you don't have to waste as much gas replacing stalkers, so you can do things like tech into better units than stalkers, because you don't want to go stalkers all game. You can go things like Archons, go things like Immortals, you can make things like Tempest, you can make things like Templar. You can make lots of better units than stalkers. And then you just because you made zealots first, your stalkers still get to fight, but they don't die while engaging. You can fight, and you can go, oh, we won this fight. Okay, fight's over, we won. The end of story. Or you go, all right, we did a lot of damage to him, but my zealots are kind of dying, and I don't really have enough to win the fight. How about I blink away now, and I don't lose my stalkers in this process, and I now can warp in another round of zealots, or because I don't need to warp in another round of stalkers, my gas is higher, and I can now make Archons or whatever, the more powerful units that I want to eventually make anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think if he just attacked with his both battle cruisers, that fight could have been a lot different.
Yeah. I honestly, if you would have not run into tank range again, you could have shit on his army pretty hard. But if he would have attacked you with everything at once too, he could have killed you right now. Like, we're talking like after you committed to the tanks. If he just grouped his shit up and attacked you all together, he could have killed you.
Yeah.
You both had a chance there to kill each other with how you both microed that. All right, so he's kind of posturing around. Let's look at workers really fast. Your main is completely mined out. Your natural is mining out, but it's good for what it is. Your third base is fine. It could use one more probe, but that's very minor. Your fourth base is just finishing. Well, your probe count still overall is only 60. And that's still one of those things where it's kind of scary. I know you just lost an army, and that's also scary, but yeah, no, like the economy that you have going on right now is honestly not the greatest. If all your probes were actively mining and not being transferred right now, we're talking like you're gonna have around like 850 gas, kind of like what he does, and then on top of that you'll have probably like 2300 minerals and maybe 2400. When you could, if you had another, we're talking 80 probes, you're gonna have like 1,000 gas or like 1,100 and like 3,000 mineral to like 3,300 mineral income. Like, the income is just the biggest thing that it's so many problems could be fixed if you just had more income, and because there's plenty of chances to get it in this game, and then he shows up with an army that's 139 supply, and you could be maxed and be like, nice army, it's dead, and we're good. And then now, I'd say I like that you're going Stargate against Mech, but I don't necessarily like that you're going Void Rays.
What should I be going? Tempest?
Yes. I would say if I saw a Terran player go, because think about it like this, okay? with your current composition, we're gonna do a little quiz right now. With your current composition, which is going to be gateway units that are comprised of Stalker, Zealot, Archon, and Void Rays, how do you feel like your army's gonna match up against his? Like, what do you think that is gonna happen in the fight?
Oh, I'm gonna get screwed. Definitely.
What do you explain to me what you think is gonna happen to your army?
Basically, I'm gonna get wrecked. I think. I built the Void Race to counter the battle cruisers, so that I could take them down easier. But he has Thors, so the Thors will counter the Void Race. Stalkers won't do much. Zealots may clump everything up, may clump the bio, but again, I think he's 2-1. I'm not sure how that will fare. And the Archons won't. I don't think they will do much either. But yeah, I could try Tempest in this situation.
So, I would say, you're not wrong on the way you describe that. Like, it's what I wanted you to say. Like, I can understand you making Void Rays for the battlecruiser, but the thing about battlecruiser is Stalkers even counter battlecruisers, like in low numbers. And this guy he does not have mass BCs. He's got like a couple, and you even killed the last BCs, even though your Stalkers got wasted on the tanks really heavily. So your Stalkers are already more than enough to kill BCs. But the thing about Void Rays is it's not even just the Thors that would shit on the Void Rays. The Marines as well, which is what he's been making all game, would also shit on the Void Rays. Because a Marine and a Void Ray have very similar range. The Void Rays win by 1, but the Void Ray is not going to be able to really abuse that because the Marine is very fucking fast and shoots really fast. So if he stim packs his Marines and you're trying to like focus fire his battle cruisers, his Marines are going to pop all your Voids before even like one battle cruiser dies. And that's not even to mention what you said as well. The Thors as well. If those things go on high impact payload, they will pop your fucking Voids so fast as well. Like from further away too. So there's so many things about his army that can shit all over Voids, and the reason why is because you don't have a lot of AoE. So that means his DPS stays up for a long time, and you have to engage into him. And his army's DPS is so much higher than yours that it's going to, like, your army's going to just disappear. The only real form of AoE you have right now is you have 3 Archons.
A few Archons, yeah.
Which they're going to be able to run into, like, they're going to run into the bio behind the Zealots, which is going to help a bit. But like most of the time, bio, what is it going to do? It's going to stim pack and run away from the Archons. And also, not only that, but also bio might split a little bit, so it reduces the AoE. The Archons do a lot. Like, he's not going to just stand super clumped up in a ball and you're going to get the center of them and smash AoE into the center of that. It's very unlikely to happen. So we're talking your Archons at most are going to be splashing maybe 2-3 units each time they shoot. But if you're going into Voids now too, that's going to take a lot of your resources. That's going to take away from your Gateway army, which is going to definitely weaken that a lot. Like, it's going to make your Gateway army like bleed out a lot faster because you're investing so heavily into the Void Rays now. However, if you went for something, so I'm just kind of explaining why I'm not really liking your current composition. But now if we're talking about what I think could do a lot better here, it's harder to micro, but I think if you went for like Storm, just because you are already making Archons, if you just got a Storm upgrade, you totally could do that, and suddenly that solves the Marine problem. So Storm wouldn't be the worst idea here. You get rid of a lot of the Marines, which gets rid of a lot of his DPS. Suddenly then Zealots become a lot better against Thors. And Zealots can also beat Thors too if you have a lot of them surrounding them. And then if you had Stalkers, Stalkers could also beat the... And Stalkers and Archons could also help beat the rest of the Thors and also the Battlecruiser. Stuff like that. If you had, going further, let's say you don't go for Storm and you just... 100% of your Templar are now Archons, okay? So you keep the current army you have and you delete the Void Rays. Let's say you make... not Tempest. Let's say you make Disruptors. Okay? Or Colossus. Colossus would probably be kind of scary because if he goes for high impact payload Thors, he can fucking smoke your Colossus in seconds because that actually gets benefit of that. So his Thors would have 11 range against your Colossus. So when you see he has Thors, Colossus probably aren't going to be the best idea anymore. But let's just say you have Disruptor and you're launching Disruptor shots at his army from a safe distance. You're not having to run into him to do it. You're sieging him. You pick off groups of Marines. You're smashing them into Thors. It doesn't take a lot of Disruptor shots to kill a Thor. It only takes 3 disruptor shots to kill a Thor. So
Yeah, but if the disruptor shots connected with the Marines, it's already great. The Zealots can do the rest with the Thors.
exactly. That's another way to look at it, right? You like disruptor. I would say if you had instead of 5 void rays, if you had 5 disruptors and you just threw out, let's say 1 shot whiffs, the second shot hits like 3 Marines, the third shot hits a juicy clump of Marines where you hit that like 16 and you knock them out. The fourth shot hits like 2 Marines again, and the fifth shot hits like 3 of his Thors and does like a chunk of their health. That already would be like, well, my Zealots can now just run over his army. Like 100%. So something, and then also on top of that, you might not even necessarily need to take the fight. You could just back up and launch more disruptor shots again from a safer distance, because disruptor cooldown is not even that long. And then on top of that, let's just say what you actually do as well is you throw out, let's just say like 4 disruptor shots or 3 disruptor shots, and you wipe out like 4 of his Thors because they are clumped up. Because they can't also run away from a Purification Nova, which is what a disruptor shoots. That thing moves way faster than a Thor can run. So you like land on a clump of Thors and you blow up some of his Thors. Then you could be like, well, now I've cleared out the Thors. Now suddenly something like Tempest becomes really good, because you just like destroyed his Thor, which is the only counter to a Tempest here, and this current army he has, and then you're good to go. And then you can use the rest of your army to like fight it off. There's just a lot of options here you have, and going voids is one of the worst things you could do. Just for fun to make.
Yeah.
All right.
And he even has Hellbats.
Yeah, and then that Hellbats are going to be good against your Zealots. So that's another reason why something like Disruptors would be great, because you could pick his army apart before you even have to engage it. So he definitely is going into mech now, like you said. Like, he opened up with Bio for a while, and now he's transitioning into like this in-game mech style. It's like a hybrid, but it is ultimately becoming mech. You can see now he's going into Banshees. He's getting even more Thor. This would be the great time to now actually be like, now that he's going mixed in with like really heavy air, great time to be like, okay, let's start mixing in a lot of Tempest. Because Tempest can counter every single air unit Terran has, except for one, which is a Viking. And if he has a lot of Viking, suddenly all you got to do to fix that is either do a round of Stalkers, because they can blink on the Vikings and kill the Vikings as well, or make a couple of Templar and get a couple Storms, and then you can AoE his air too. And you can deal with that way as well.
Right, got it. Tempests and Disruptors.
They're amazing. Yeah, seriously. Tempest Disruptor. I did that every single game against mech when in my beta GM, and I crushed mech every time with that. No matter what kind of mech it was. I will say this: the only composition that Tempest are afraid of besides Viking, but again, you have answers to Viking with Stalker and Storm. You can just warp in some of that and you're good. The only thing Tempest is afraid of when Terran goes for a certain type of mech is mass battlecruiser. Okay, we're talking like fucking. He's got like 20 battlecruisers and maybe like some Widow Mines backing that up. If he has mass species, suddenly Tempest, it gets kind of weird then, because he could just teleport directly on your Tempest, and BCs actually fly faster than Tempest do, and he could actually kill your Tempest this way. If he's that kind
so in that case, what should I do? Like Void Rays?
Void Rays aren't probably going to be the best because they take too long. I would say in that case, maybe just start making like just try to like wear him down, like make a fucking lot of Stalkers. Like you can use your current Tempest army and you can make like a lot of Stalkers. You're going to lose a lot of your army, but you can pick apart at his army and then Chrono Boost like all your gates, Chrono Boost all your Stargates, it's fine. But just keep making like shitloads of Stalkers round after round after round. And eventually like maybe like 2 or 3 fights of this and you'll break his army down, because it takes a while for BCs to be rebuilt. And then got it. Yeah, and then if you actually like kill his army once, then you capitalize on that timing to like go kill his bases and stuff like that. But it's rare. It's very rare you're ever gonna fight someone with that many BCs. You're probably not gonna run into that until you're like 5k MMR, honestly. Like
let's hope so.
Yeah, it's gonna be rare. Yeah, the voids. The biggest problem with the voids is they just have to commit so close to the fight that you're just gonna have a bad day. I will say, luckily for you though, the Banshee thing he's doing right now makes Voids a bit decent because Voids are like the new upgrade makes them pretty fucking fast. So you could actually chase the Banshees realistically. But still, even though you killed those Banshees, what I see right now is your Voids running into this fight and they all fucking disappear within 4 seconds.
Yeah, that's definitely what's going to happen.
All right, let's count it, dude. The second they engage. Okay, so they're engaging right now at 22:43. The first shot has been fired, and let's see how fast these Voids disappear.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, the Voids aren't really accomplishing a whole lot here. And then now there's not enough of what you need to deal with his actual army. Oh. Yeah. Oh, oops. Okay. So, again, the biggest problem with this whole game for you 100% is just the macro. Like, if you just have, like, more efficiency in your play with more proper worker production, it'll accelerate your economy, which will then accelerate your production. Everything gets accelerated because of this. Then he shows up and he does his, like, random timing. And you're like, okay, he's got maybe 50 supply. Suddenly, when he's at 50 supply and he's doing his build, instead of you being at like 54, now suddenly you're at like 70 when he's only at 50 because you're macroing properly. And you're like, okay, well, that wasn't that hard to deal with. He does another timing after this when he's at like 80 supply. And now you're playing still efficiently. And now instead of a 20 supply difference or so, when he's at 50, you're at 70. Now he's at 80 and you're at like 110. Or like 120, and now there's like a 40 or 50 supply difference. He does his timing, it fails even harder because you have so much supply. And now he goes for another final timing where he's at like 110, and you're at like 180. And now there's like a 70 or 80 supply difference, or like 190. And now you just absolutely fucking destroy his army, and you're like, well, I'm also maxed, so I'll just go kill you now. Like, that's how more of your games will start looking if you just macro properly. For sure.
Awesome. I'm gonna try to keep that in mind and look the replays and watch the replays after and see how many seconds I spent without building probes.
Sure, it sounds good. Also, a big thing to keep in mind too is do the 4-5 thing we talked about. So you, like always maintain that if you can, and even during fights. Like whenever you have a moment where you're like, well, the micro's kind of happening, I don't need to do anything right now. I need to go 4-5, 4-5. Just check on my production, check on my worker unit production, all that stuff, and then just really get in the habit of maintaining that, because eventually it is going to become muscle memory, and you won't have to think about it anymore. Like, you will eventually condition yourself to just do it, and you'll just be like, that's just what I do. I don't know. I don't even think about it. Someone could be talking to you. Like, that's how it is for me when I'm streaming. Like, I'll be like, hey, chat. Someone's like, hey, ViBE. What did you eat for dinner last night, dude? Why weren't you streaming on time? And I'm like, all right, let's talk about that fucking randomly while I'm in the middle of a game. And I actually am still macroing properly because it's just muscle memory. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it just changes it into that kind of a aspect for you.
Awesome. Yeah, man. I'll definitely try to incorporate that. And also, I think the third one to take away from that is splash damage.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, exactly. And that's highly, highly needed. Storm would not be bad against like mass Marines, but Disruptors I would say would be best in that situation because it's also good against Thors. It's good against Hellbats. It's good against the Bio. It's good against tanks. It's good against everything he has. Because if you think about it like this, I think you understand why it's good against everything maybe besides the tanks. But the reason why it's good against tanks is because a Disruptor actually has more range than a tank does if you micro it, right? Because if you like make the edge of the splash of the Nova, if you make it go max range, the edge of the Nova can splash a tank out of range of a tank. And furthermore, if the guy doesn't give his tanks vision properly, you can actually go into the zone where you would be getting shot by a tank, but he can't see you, and you can easily get shots off on his tanks and kill multiple tanks that way. And then if you really needed to, you could also stay out of range of tanks altogether. Let him walk forward and throw disruptor shots at him. And if he stands in it, you suddenly kill what's pushing with the tanks, and now you solve the problem that way as well.
Then blink and erase the tanks.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Awesome, awesome.
But yeah, man. Thank you for doing a coaching lesson. I'll have this uploaded by tomorrow, so I'll send you the video of it maybe later tonight or sometime tomorrow, and you can watch
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely take a look again.
Yeah. But
thanks a lot, man. Thanks for your coaching.
Thank you,
and for your tips and help.
Just to throw it out there, maybe it'll make you laugh, but everyone says you sound just like BC Cutie. They're like, "Are you coaching BC right now, dude? What the fuck?"
Well, I wanted to play like him. Well, but
there you go. You guys are like brothers.
Maybe we'll get there one day.
You guys are fucking brothers. You really do. I agree with chat. You really do sound like him.
Awesome, man. Sounds great, dude. I'm gonna go back and watch your Bronze to GM series.
All right, thanks, man.
Perhaps get some of that. You're playing Zerg today, right?
Yeah, Zerg today.
Okay. Yeah, well, could be Protoss, but right.
I'll probably play Protoss maybe tomorrow, or the day after.
Okay, awesome, and thanks a lot.
Yeah,
and,
thank you, dude.
Oh, catch you later.
All right, see you, man. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, guys, that was a coaching lesson with our boy Pulse. That was a platinum level coaching lesson. If you guys liked it, no, I do have a lot more coaching lesson videos just like that all over my YouTube channel, so go check them out if you're interested. And yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next one, and until then, take it easy. Peace, everybody. Goodbye.